Here's one thing you didn't know about every mainline Sonic game. We've got 27 total games to cover, and I want you to keep track of how many you actually knew and drop a comment letting me know how you did. Let's do it. Sonic the Hedgehog 1991, Stage Shuffle. The level order in the original Sonic game is pretty freaking iconic. You got 6 main areas, and they alternate between feeling more Sonic-like in the way they implement speed, momentum, and flow, and being more conventional platforming stages. They did this to get players accustomed to Sonic's distinct style of play without alienating the more traditional elements of 90s platformers, and it definitely works in the game's favor, but that wasn't the order they were intended to be played in. The environments were instead supposed to gradually shift from more lively and natural ones to organized and polluted ones. Green Hill was always first, but they wanted that to be immediately followed up by Labyrinth Zone. Safe to say they made the right call. The final order makes a playthrough gradually get more challenging, and balances out the speed and platforming in the most optimal way. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Knuckles. This guy wasn't introduced until Sonic 3, but since that game was too big to fit onto one cartridge, they split it into 2 parts, with Sonic and Knuckles having the ability to accept the Sonic 3 cartridge and combine their data to form the complete game. But you can stick any Genesis game you want into this thing, and most of the time the result is pretty anticlimactic, but if you insert Sonic 2, you can play through the entire game as Knuckles. It's not a ROM hack, this is on the original Genesis hardware, and is such a cool bonus. Sonic CD, I'm outta here. Idle animations are pretty common in video games, but this one from Sonic CD is one of the funniest I've ever seen. If you make Sonic stand around for 3 minutes, he gets fed up with your indecisive ass and straight up jumps off screen, which makes you lose all your lives and results in a game over. He literally kills himself. Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Ice Cap ripoff. Sonic's known for having some of the best soundtracks in gaming. Even the worst installments are chock full of absolute headbangers. And Sonic 3's Ice Cap Zone is one of the greatest and most iconic tracks in the series. However, the rhythm is ripped straight from the song Hard Times by the Jetsons. Yeah, it's not even subtle. Straight up copy-pasted that shit. Sonic 3D Blast, Cartridge Abuse. This game came out for both the Sega Saturn and the Sega Genesis, and the Genesis version has a feature I've never seen before. If you smack the cartridge around, for whatever reason, it triggers the game to restart and boot up a level select, which is really handy to know, but like, why did they do this? Sonic Adventure, DLC's debut. Yeah, we can blame Sonic for what pay-to-win downloadable content has become today. No, but Sonic Adventure did feature the first ever DLC on a console video game, and it wasn't anything crazy, just some holiday packs that featured cool themed decorations, but for $19.99, this was pretty revolutionary. Sonic Adventure 2, Tails' Voice Dilemma. In the original Sonic Adventure, Tails was voiced by Corey Bringus, who was 13 at the time, but right when they needed his lines for Adventure 2, he hit puberty and couldn't do the same voice anymore, so they grabbed the dude's brother Connor and gave him the role. Talk about nepotism at its finest. But then they only kept him around for this one game, and wouldn't you know it, he was also 13 at the time, so that's gotta be like the sweet spot for Tails voices. Sonic Advance, Nintendo's first. Sonic Adventure 2 was the final Sonic game developed for a Sega console, and while they ported it to GameCube pretty freaking quickly, they squeezed Sonic Advance onto the GBA right beforehand, making this Sonic's first game for a Nintendo console. Sonic Advance 2, Cream's Conception. Cream the Rabbit is a character no one asked for, and she made her debut here in the second Sonic Advance game, but she was intended to be introduced later in Sonic Heroes. Team Rose needed a flight archetype, and she was designed primarily to just fill that role. But Sonic Team wanted players to be a bit more familiar with her beforehand, and decided to shoehorn her into Advance 2. Sonic Heroes, Metal Chaos Control. Sonic, Shadow, Silver, and Black Doom are the only 4 characters in the series that can induce Chaos Control with their own power, but Sonic Heroes features the one exception. So throughout the game, Metal Sonic's disguising himself as Eggman and collecting data from all the characters, including Sonic and Shadow, and in doing so, he gains their ability to use Chaos Control and manipulate time itself, which helps to make Metal Overlord one of the most menacing and overpowered villains in the entire series. He's also the only non-organic life form we've ever seen use it. Sonic Advance 3, Son Eggman. Sonic and Eggman have teamed up a couple times over the years, but in the true ending of Advance 3, they do once again in the most cooperative way ever. Instead of basically getting out of Sonic's way, Eggman goes up there with Super Sonic to take on the final form of Ultimate Jamurl with him. And this is the only time where the two fight alongside each other for a boss, which makes for a killer finale. Shadow the Hedgehog, false advertising. This game is notorious for the absurdly over-the-top violence and edgy content, and that was heavily prevalent all throughout the marketing for the game. But the art on the case itself straight up lies. The gun Shadow's holding is not obtainable in-game. You think I do clickbait? This is unacceptable. I demand a refund. Sonic Rush, redundant speed. This game introduces the boost gameplay style, and it works it into levels really well. It feels very satisfying to use and keeps things moving at a fast tempo the entire time. But of all the games that incorporate the boost, this is the only one for almost 2 decades that also offered a spin dash. I guess because it's kinda made obsolete by the boost. Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, genuinely unfinished. Okay, so to preface, I consider myself a supporter of Sonic 06. I see what it tried to do and find enjoyment in multiple aspects of the game. But factually speaking, the final release is not only unfinished, but it's also not even the best and most up-to-date build they had of the game. As the holiday 2006 deadline was rapidly approaching, more and more pressure was put on the developers to get something out in time, and their alpha build of the game, while technically better in almost every way, was more prone to crashing on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 hardware. They overestimated the amount of power they had to work with, and were forced to go back to their much older beta build of the game and just finish that. And yeah, it didn't crash as much, but everything else was significantly less polished and earned the game the tremendously poor reputation it had for so many years. Sonic Rush Adventure, the last of its kind. After the pretty great Sonic Advance trilogy and the fun standalone Sonic Rush game, Rush Adventure didn't do all that well commercially and kinda killed the handheld series of Sonic games. After this, it was watered down versions of home console games and atrocious Sonic Boom platformers. Unique adventures designed specifically for handhelds were a thing of the past, so either this game's responsible or just so happened to be where they ran out of ideas. Sonic Unleashed, 6 Sonic. Jason Griffith took over as Sonic's voice actor starting in Shadow the Hedgehog, and this game would prove to be his most daunting task yet, because not only did he have to voice the blue blur, but also this thing. And to make that task all the more challenging, he was actually suffering from strep throat while recording lines for the game, and the fact that you can't tell is major props to this dude's skill and professionalism. Most people even consider this to be his best in-game performance as Sonic, and I think I agree with that too, so thanks for pushing through, Jason. Sonic 4 Episode 1, Character Troll. It's crazy to think about now, but back in 2010, the Sonic community kinda had enough of having so many playable characters, and wanted to see games narrow down the cast to focus more on Sonic himself. Before the game came out, they posted to social media showing a character countdown featuring all these obscure Sonic characters that would get crossed out day by day to reveal the final playable lineup. Imagine you really wanted to see one of these characters in the game, and they just fucking troll you to say, oh, it's just Sonic, that's what you guys wanted, right? I'd be pissed. Sonic Colors, Tails' Talents. Another fact relating to a Tails actor, but I found this one out pretty recently and thought it was awesome. So Kate Higgins voiced Tails in the early 2010s before Colleen O'Shaughnessy took over, and she did pretty well with her short time with the character, but she backstabbed the franchise hard after she was recast, and joined Sonic's biggest rival series, Mario. Mayor Pauline, yeah, that's Tails, the most synonymous song with the Nintendo Switch and Mario's biggest game in the last couple of decades, sung by Tails. You can't unhear it. Sonic Generations, the 4th Emerald. In this game, Sonic needs all 7 Chaos Emeralds to go super alongside his classic form and defeat the Time Eater. The first one is obtained by beating the Death Egg robot, the second by Metal Sonic, the third by Perfect Chaos, and then the fourth by Shadow, who likes that particular emerald a whole hell of a lot.
Where's that damn 4th Chaos Emerald?
Sonic 4 Episode 2, Repurposed Zones. Every single zone in this game is a reworked theme or concept from a scrapped Sonic 2 level. You got Wood Zone being adapted to Sylvania Castle Zone, Sand Shower getting palette shifted into White Park, Genocide City becoming Oil Desert Zone, and the Death Egg Mark II expanding on what Sonic 2's own Death Egg wanted to look like. Sonic Lost World, the 7 Deadly Six. Pop culture franchises love to turn the 7 deadly sins into a cast of characters. SpongeBob does it, The Simpsons, Regular Show, the list goes on, and the lazy writers of Sonic Lost World turn to that very same trope. Pride is the old guy, the girl is lust, Zavok is envy, gluttony is pretty obvious, wrath is Zaz, and sloth is the depressed guy. Greed is the only sin not represented, but Eggman kinda fills that role instead. He literally built a machine to suck a planet of its power to use all for himself. So all 7 play a pretty impactful role on this game's villain lineup. Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, Professional Gatekeeping. Where most game companies want the press to get their hands on a brand new game to see how fun it is for themselves and spread the word to get it out to the masses, Sega prohibited any reviews of this game until it went on sale. They knew it wasn't very good, and tried to hide it from consumers until they made the mistake of purchasing it themselves. Sonic Mania livestream callback. Sonic's 25th anniversary livestream was a great way to celebrate Sonic's birthday. Live music, game announcements, just a straight up party for this character we all love so much. It must have been electric to be part of that crowd, but those that tuned into the livestream had a completely different experience. It was laggy, it kept crashing, and a bulk of it had this super annoying hissing sound that just wouldn't go away, which made the incredible announcement of Sonic Mania just a little less enjoyable. But instead of trying to sweep that blunder under the rug, they called themselves out for it in the actual game, which is freaking awesome. After you beat Eggman at the end of Studiopolis Act 2, the monitor in the background loses connection and plays a very faint buzzing sound that's identical to the one from the stream. Sonic Forces: Return of the Death Egg. This is the first 3D game to ever feature the Death Egg. The Death Egg robot was a fight in Generations, but modern Sonic never stepped foot there, and outside of that, we've just never seen it. Crazy. Also, I hate this game. Sonic Frontiers: Infinite Boost. The boost gauge having a limit is the only thing that can hold Sonic back, but if you draw an infinity symbol on the ground, you temporarily get unlimited boost, which makes trekking these vast terrains a lot faster. Sonic Superstars: Sonic's Father Returns. Sonic was co-created by the programming ingenuity of Yuji Naka and the brilliant creative mind of Naoto Oshima. But after Sonic Adventure, Oshima moved on to other projects, founded his own studio with former Sega employees, and only came back to the series after over 20 years to work on Sonic Superstars. His studio Artzest co-developed the game alongside Sonic Team, and what resulted is a really modern-feeling adaptation of the classic Sonic formula. And he stated in interviews that this was the most fun he's ever had working on a Sonic game. Honestly, good for him. Sonic X Shadow Generations: The Waterworks. Describe Shadow the Hedgehog in one word. 3, 2, 1, cool. He's cool. He's heroic, but not in a corny way like Sonic can be. He takes things seriously, he has depth, he has traumas, and he hides them really well with his mad amounts of aura. But in the ending of Shadow Generations, spoiler alert, he sheds a tear for the very second time in the series. I thought it was the first time when I first saw it, but apparently in SA2, after Amy's little pep talk, he does in fact cry a single tear. So yeah, this isn't the first game we see him get emotional like that. And that's 27 things you didn't know about each and every mainline Sonic game. Tell me your score down in the comments, and please, if I miss one of your favorites, let me know. Also, if you want to see me accurately predict the entire plot to Sonic Movie 4, check out the video on screen, and thank you so much for watching.